Krishna. Yeah, the spiritual world, every word is music and every step is a dance. Kathaganam, natyam, gamanamapi, bangsi priyasakhi, chidanandang jyoti, paramapi tadasyadam apicha. And also, it's a place of festivity all the time. So we should try our best to create that mood in our temple especially, or wherever we go. There should be festival. And that festival shouldn't be for the sake of sense gratification, but our festival is for the sake of pleasing Krishna and glorifying Krishna. So, and the knowledge that is there, that knowledge is actually the source of joy. Chidananda, Chit Ananda, the transcendental joy, the joy of the heart, is the Jyoti. The Jyoti means effulgence. The effulgence that is there in the spiritual world is the joy. In the material nature, we don't really experience that. Sometimes we do, like when the sun shines, especially in winter morning, doesn't it fill our heart with joy? Just to be there. And the other day I saw someone lying down in the field, basking in the sun. And so Krishna has given that knowledge in Bhagavad Gita, and that's what we are cultivating. Like Bhagavad Gita, if we go chapter by chapter, then we see the first chapter is just setting the scene. What is the battlefield like? Two sides have gathered to fight, and all these incredible warriors on two sides. It's that's why about Battle of Kurukshetra was so remarkable. Like some of these warriors, they were immortal practically. Bhishma was immortal. Dronacharya was immortal. Ashwatthama was immortal. And all the 5 sons of Pandu are also, time and time again it comes out in the Puranas that I also mentioned, quoting Srimad Bhagavatam, that Vidura, Drupad and others did not believe that Pandavas died. When the news spread that the house of Shelak was burnt and 5 brothers along with Kunti died there, but many of them did not believe because they knew that the Pandavas were born as expansions of demigods. Therefore, just as demigods cannot die, the Pandavas couldn't die. So these are the personalities, invincible warriors, and they're going to fight. But then we can also see, although they were immortal in their own way, but from the opponent side, everyone was killed. All those personalities. And this is Krishna's arrangement. Krishna can make impossible possible. That is Krishna's divine potency. That is Krishna's divine ability. And that's why he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Creation emanated from him. Sustenance is conducted by him. And eventually annihilation also will be by him. And that is why time and time again the scripture's instruction is surrender. So here's a personality whose influence you cannot really avoid. Whether you accept it or not, he is going to control everything. So since he is the supreme controller, then might as well submit to him. He is the controller, so let me be controlled by him. That's the meaning of surrender. Let me be controlled by him. And when we do that, then everything becomes simple, easy. So that's why the instruction time and time again is surrender, surrender, surrender. Mamekam sharanang braja. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu jibe daya kori. Shaparshad Shiyodham Shaho Avatari Ottanto Durlabho Prem Koribare Dan Shikhaye Sharanagati Bhakotir Pran. In order to bestow, in order to award us the most rare Krishna Prem, he is teaching us the process of surrender. So that is the unique aspect of surrender. You surrender, and what will you get? The most precious wealth of, not of this material nature, of the spiritual world. The entire wealth of this material nature cannot even compare to a tiny little speck of the spiritual sky. You take a speck of dust in the spiritual sky and place it in the balance, and on the other side of the balance you just put all the wealth of this material nature. Still, it will not balance it. So now you consider this, if that is what spiritual world is like, then the most precious wealth of the spiritual world, what it's like. And that has become available to us. And all we have to do is surrender. Ottanto durlabho prem koribare dan shikhaye sharanagati. Sharanagati means the way to surrender, which is the very life of devotion. Sometimes we just take it for granted, or we forget what we are actually pursuing. As I noticed, like so often devotees forget. Devotees just stop chanting their rounds. And that is why there is this need of arrangements like this. That is the reason why we go around. Just to inspire you, just to remind you about the importance of the spiritual life. Don't take it lightly, take it seriously. But the material nature is like that. We tend to forget. And especially the influence of the outside world is so strong, so powerful. So that's why we have to be very careful, we have to be very diligent. And that's why we make arrangements for this seminar, so that you can come and we can remind you about the importance of spiritual life. So never neglect your spiritual responsibilities. Always remember that at the time of initiation, you have taken the vow of chanting the four regulative principles, chanting 16 rounds and following the four regulative principles. These are the two most important considerations. Never forget, never neglect to complete your 16 rounds, and chant it diligently. Chant it attentively. Chant it without committing offenses. And the best way to guard yourself against the offenses is maintain a humble attitude and have faith in the words of Srila Prabhupada. Whatever Srila Prabhupada said, just accept it wholeheartedly. And and maintain a humble attitude. The trouble starts when we become arrogant. The trouble starts when we become influenced by a false ego. That's why get rid of the false ego. False ego means the tendency to consider that you are the best, you are the biggest, you are the supreme. So give up that attitude. Krishna will award you various situations, various positions, which will make you make others feel that you are so great. Krishna will make that arrangement. But when that happens, when it comes, when that allure, when that recognitions, appreciation, and respect and honor come, the more it comes, then try to become more humble. And that is the way to go about it. And in this respect, a beautiful example is that a tree that is full of fruits. Have you noticed it? Fruit trees, generally the branches are going up straight, very straight and upright. But when the fruits come, then what happens? The tree bends down. The more the fruits, more it will bend down. So that is how it should be with a devotee. The more qualified he becomes, more humble he becomes. More honor and recognition come, all the honor and recognition makes him more and more humble. Because he never accepts anything as his own credit. He offers it to his spiritual master and Krishna. So that is the process, simple process. The process that purifies the heart. And the more the heart becomes purified, the more softer it becomes. Softer it becomes, more humble it becomes. An arrogant person, you will notice, has very hard heart. In order to become humble, we need a soft heart. So cultivate that, to how to make the heart softer and softer. Okay, so now we can go back to our Bhagavad Gita. So, what our activities should be like? Can anybody stay without working? Can you even be inactive for a moment? Can you be inactive even for a moment? So we have to act. So how should we act? Jaggarthat karmano annatra lokoayam karma bandhana. Lokoayam karma bandhana. Tadarthang karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. How should we act? Jaggarthat. Jaggarthat means for the sake of Jagya. For the sake of, who is Jagya? Krishna, Vishnu. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in the material nature. Do you want to become bound to this material nature? I'm sure no one here wants to be bound to this material nature now that you got all these informations. So, now the question is, what does being bound mean? What is the meaning of that being bound? Bound means being tied down to this material nature so much so that at the time of death we won't be able to go. We may think everything is all right, but a slight little material attachment can tie us down to the material nature. We have to remember that our mission is actually to become free completely at the time of death. But that's not going to happen accidentally. Okay, let me put it this way. How many of you want to come back again to this material nature? Well, of course, at the same time we know our understanding is if Krishna wants, we'll come back. Isn't it? That is our attitude. If Krishna wants, we'll come back. But on our part, our goal should be, let's not come back on for our sake, for our act. Because you see, the difference is when Krishna sends you or when Krishna wants you to come here, then it is for Krishna's purpose. But if we come back due to our own attachments, then we don't really know what's going to happen because it will happen due to the karmic reactions. And there is no way of knowing what kind of birth we are going to get. We can get an animal birth, we can get an insect birth, we can get like when Ambarish Mahaprabhu, Henry Ford's great-grandson, was brought to Srila Prabhupada, he was introduced, his Henry Ford's great-grandson. Prabhupada's reaction was, oh, where is Henry Ford now? And that's the thing, in the person who had been Henry Ford, whose name is recognized and honored and respected and remembered, even today, here in this world, we don't even know where he has gone to and what kind of body he has got. So that's why we should be very, very vigilant, very, very careful that we, at least on our part, remain free from any possibility of getting tied down to this material nature. So, and the process Srila Prabhupada has given, that's why we are so strict on this point, chanting 16 rounds, following the 4 regulative principles. Because these 16 rounds takes time, takes effort. And this effort we take for the sake of our faith in the process. in spite of all these difficulties, we chant 16 rounds, make it a point to chant 16 rounds, because we have faith. And this is a demonstration of our faith. And because we trust in words of Srila Prabhupada, and that's why we chant the holy name, no matter how difficult it may be. I can well imagine how difficult it must be, because, I have all my time given to Krishna consciousness. Still I find it difficult to finish my rounds. And what to speak of you all? You all are working outside, most of your time has been sold out to others. To find that the time to chant 16 rounds is, I'm sure it's very, very difficult. That's why the best thing to do is just finish your rounds early in the morning. Okay. Maybe you can either take care of your baby or... So, make it a point to finish your rounds early in the morning. Get up early. I know many of you are doing, and for that matter, Hemanga Chaitanya gets the credit. He is encouraging a lot of devotees all over and making them chant their rounds early in the morning, first thing in the morning. And they're doing it. I'm seeing so many devotees are getting up at 3:30, 3 o'clock, and finishing their rounds by 5 o'clock. So that's very laudable. Because I notice, like, if I don't finish my rounds early in the morning, at least most of my rounds in the morning, then I have difficulty. Sometimes I have things to do in the morning, like sometimes I get conference calls at the middle of the night. Because sometimes we have conference calls for the GBC matters, like that has to kind of synchronize America, Europe, India and Australia. Can you imagine? It's 24 hours practically. And often I have to bear the brunt of it. Like, it's something like this. When it is 12:30 midnight, or let's say, 12:30, let's take it that way. 12:30 midnight, it's 5 o'clock in the morning in Australia. And it is, then the rest of the European thing is all right. It's to synchronize between India and Australia and West Coast, America. So 12:30 here, 5 o'clock Australia, and it's 6 o'clock in, I'm sorry, it's 7 o'clock in London, and it's 1 o'clock in New York afternoon, and it's 10 o'clock in Los Angeles. So I have to bear the brunt. India makes me humble. Because when it comes to my time as 12:30 and at midnight, and anyway, so things are happening in this way. Like, I mean, when you get the responsibilities, you have to make the sacrifice. And in a way it's good. Like, I feel that I'm not doing it for my sake. Yagarthat karmana. Doing it for Krishna. Whatever difficulties I'm tolerating, whatever difficulties I'm going through, it's for Srila Prabhupada and for Krishna. And what is the benefit when we offer things to Krishna? Or when we act on behalf of Krishna? Devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. Jagga shishtasino santa mucchante sarva kilvishayi. But bhunjate the taghang papa jo pachanti atma karanat. So that is the benefit of doing things for Krishna. And that's the disadvantage of doing things for ourselves. When we do things for Krishna, then what happens? We get the result as in the form of Krishna's mercy, Krishna's prasad. And Krishna's prasad purifies our hearts, frees us from a sinful reaction. So another verse is very nice in this chapter, like how Jagga is important has been pointed out. Annad bhavanti bhutani, parjannad anna sambhava, Jaggad bhavati parjanna, Jagga karma samudbhava. Annad bhavanti bhutani. Living entities survive, living entities, all the living bodies subsist on food grains. Right? Now how does the food come? Due to rain. Parjannad anna sambhava. And what causes the rain? Yaggad bhavati parjanna. The rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice. And yajna is born of prescribed duties. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. For by working without attachment, one attains the Supreme. So from third chapter anyway, this is how the third chapter is reminding us how to act. So you get the thing, the sequence. Second chapter is reminding us about our spiritual identity. We are spiritual beings. And third chapter is reminding us how should we act, how we should act. There's the first aspect of karma yoga. How should we act? And in this way, all these verses, anyway, keep reading, just read the chapters yourselves carefully. Maybe, so, then the fourth chapter is revealing Krishna's identity. Who is Krishna? Who is Krishna? The Supreme Personality of Godhead. How do you know? So that is, Krishna is proving it. After speaking the third chapter, Krishna, in the beginning of fourth chapter, Krishna says, I gave this knowledge to, who did Krishna give this knowledge to? Sun God, Vivashwan. And then Krishna says, then from Vivashwan, Manu to Ikshaku, in this way, in a disciplic succession of the saintly kings, this knowledge was flowing. See, the saintly kings those days had this knowledge. First thing, they are not this body. They knew that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. and they knew that all the activities must be executed, must be performed for the sake of Krishna's pleasure. So can you imagine if the kings are aware of, if the leaders of the nations are aware of this fact, what will be the condition of that country? I mean, naturally the whole country will be extremely exalted. All the citizens will be extremely exalted. And all the citizens will be extremely peaceful and happy and content. When proper leadership is there, the followers enjoy that. Followers derive the benefit of good leadership. And we are seeing nowadays, because of lack of proper leadership, people are so unhappy. There is so much anarchy, so much dissatisfaction, so much lawlessness. It's all because of bad leadership. And how does good leadership come about? It comes from Krishna consciousness. If we know these simple facts, that we are not this body, enjoyment through the body is not the goal of life. The goal of life is to achieve our spiritual perfection. And the spiritual perfection comes by being surrendered to the Lord. And the display of the surrender to the Lord is demonstrated by acting on behalf of the Lord, acting for the sake of the Lord's pleasure. So that way what happens is, one naturally, even though he may be the king, he naturally becomes detached. He may live in intense luxury. He may live in inconceivable opulent environment, but he is detached, he is untouched. The example is given just like the lotus in the water. Although it's in the water, it doesn't touch the water. So that should be the mentality of the leaders. Yes, a lot of recognition, honor, etc. will come, but they'll be unaffected by that. As I said, more it comes, the more humble he becomes. So when a leader harbors that kind of attitude, then naturally his whole performance, his performance becomes completely different. He doesn't do anything for his pleasure. He is doing it for the Lord's pleasure. And while he is doing it for the Lord's pleasure, he is also seeing that all his followers also need to be engaged in the service of the Lord. So when that happens, when he takes care of his citizens, knowing well that they are the children of Krishna, Krishna has put him in that position to take care of them. Then you can well imagine what's going to be his attitude towards them. So that is the advantage that India was experiencing, India was enjoying in those days. The saintly kings were ruling this world. Those were Krishna conscious, Krishna's devotees. But then, in the 4th chapter, when Krishna mentioned that I gave this knowledge to Vivasvan, Vivasvan gave it to his son Manu, Manu gave it to his son Ikshaku, and then through a chain of disciplic succession, chain of saintly kings in succession, this knowledge was flowing. But sakaleneha mahata yoga nashta parantapa. This yoga got spoiled in due course of time. Sakale neha. And then Krishna declared, Sa evayang mayate adya yoga prakta puratana. Therefore I am telling you about this old yoga, yoga prakta puratana. Because bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasang hi etaduttamam. Because you are my devotee and you are my bhakta and you are my sakha, you are my friend. Bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasang hi etaduttamam. So that is the culture. But then one question came to Arjun's mind, naturally. That is, Krishna, you were born just the other day. And Vivashwan was born so many billions of years ago. So, katham etad vijaniyam tamado praktavaniti. How can I understand that you spoke that to him? You imparted this knowledge to him. You see, this is the wonderful thing about Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is just speaking to Arjun and dispelling Arjun's doubts. Arjun is coming up with questions and Krishna is dispelling Arjun's doubt. And through that, Krishna is teaching us. That is the nice thing about Bhagavad Gita. Now, isn't it a natural question? Like, just consider, nobody else is there, just Krishna and Arjun. Krishna tells Arjun that I gave this knowledge. And Arjun's immediate reaction is, how can I understand that you gave this knowledge to Vivashwan? And what is Krishna's answer? Krishna's answer is, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacha Arjuna. Arjun, many, many times you have taken birth. So did I. But tani ahang veda sarvani. About all those births I remember everything. But you don't remember anything. So here is Krishna is establishing the difference between us and him. Let's be honest. Do you remember anything about a previous birth? No. So that is a natural happening. Everybody, after death, forgets about his birth, that life. Then he gets a new body, gets a new birth, and then he starts to collect informations in his memory. And as the time goes by, his informations are stored, and that becomes his knowledge. But then again, when he dies, the page where all those informations were there, wiped out. That's what happens to us. Because our informations are collected in relation to the body. Through our sense perception, we collected those informations. So, because these informations are in relation to the body, when the body is finished, the informations are lost. That way we can actually consider a computer. When a computer breaks down, what happens? All its informations are lost. Computer is a beautiful replication of human being, where computer has memory and the computer has program. The program is the intelligence and memory is the memory. With a human being, what is intelligence is actually the program. The memory is there. What is intelligence? Collect informations from the memory and combine them together. Isn't that the function of the intelligence? And doesn't the computer do that? You feed the information and then you have different programs and those informations are put together. So death is something like computer going kaput. Anyway, the word kaput in German means breaks down, goes bad. Is that in Dutch also? Yeah, kaput. So that is what it is. Your one computer is gone, finished, then what do? You get a new computer. Then you store the informations there. Set the programs. So here, computer is the body and you are the soul. So anyway, so the point is that our memory is in relation to the body. So when the body is finished, the memory is lost. Whereas Krishna's case is different. Krishna says that doesn't happen with me. I remember everything. Tani ahang veda sarvani. I remember everything. Not tam vedha paratva. But you, Arjuna, you do not. So that is the first consideration, the difference between Jivatma and Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here we'll notice that those idiots who claim that they are God, they don't have this simple informations. If they had this information, then they would never have claimed that they are God. They would immediately consider, God is God and I am whatever I am. But people situated in knowledge understands it. That's one of the first things that we learn in our spiritual life. We are qualitatively one with Krishna, but quantitatively we are different. And Krishna, why Krishna never forgets? One simple consideration is not only he has an inconceivable ability, but the other consideration is that he doesn't change his body. Krishna doesn't change his body. Therefore, there is no question of forgetfulness in him. All the informations he has. Like we die, Krishna never dies. And Krishna may assume different bodies, but all those bodies are also eternal. His expansions. How he does that, that's another story. We don't know how he does that. We'll never be able to know how he does that. So this is how Krishna is establishing his identity as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Krishna is telling, I am Aja, although I am unborn. I am not born ever. Although I am unborn, and my transcendental body never deteriorates. Ajopi san, abbayatma, bhutanam ishwaropi san. And although I am the Lord of all living entities, but prakriting sham adhisthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Sambhavami. Krishna is not born, but Krishna manifests himself. Sambhavami. And why does Krishna come? Then he is giving the reason of his coming. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharataha abhuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Krishna descends to rectify the situation. His coming here can be compared to there is some disorder in the kingdom. Then what does the king do? Say some people are brewing a revolution. The king gets the message. Then what does the king do? He goes there. And he takes care of that. So Krishna's coming here is something like that. He comes here to rectify the troubled situation. And coming here, what does Krishna do? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. The purpose of his coming is twofold. One is to protect the devotees. The devotees are hankering for Krishna's association. They have accepted Krishna. They are fully convinced about Krishna's existence. And with that conviction, they are serving Krishna with all their ability, all their resources. And they I wish someday I could see Krishna. So then Krishna actually fulfills their desires. Okay, I'll come. And by coming here, Krishna gives them his association, and through that association, they derive incredible delight, incredible joy. And then Krishna is telling one thing, very nice, that janma karma chame divyam. My birth, janma, and karma, my activities, are divyam. Divyam means transcendental, divine. They are not of this material nature, they are spiritual. And that means we take birth in a certain way. We take birth due to our own karma. But Krishna's appearance is not like that. Krishna doesn't have to come here, take birth, for his karmic reaction or for any cause. Krishna can come anytime at his will. So that's why his birth, apparent birth and his activities are divyam, divine, transcendental. And evam javitti tattvataha, one who knows that in truth. Takta dehang punarjanma naiti mameti shvarjana. One who knows that my birth and my activities are transcendental, he, after he leaves his body, won't have to come back to this world again. So, see how wonderful it is. Just by knowing that Krishna's birth is divine, just by understanding that, we can become free from the cycle of birth and death. That is how wonderful Krishna's birth is. We simply have to wholeheartedly recognize that whenever Krishna comes, in whichever way he comes, it's his transcendental Leela. And his activities here are transcendental activities, lila. If we simply understand that, then we'll become free from the cycle of birth and death. In simple words, I can ask, like when I was telling these narrations, activities of Krishna for last few days from Srimad Bhagavatam, how many of you accepted it with full faith? That these are all real. It's not Maharaj is fabricating some stories and entertaining us. How many of you considered that? How many of you considered that it was all real? Once again. Very good. And you know what's the reward for that? Takta deham punarjanma naiti mameti shvarjana. You can rest assured that you won't have to come back again. Unless, of course, Krishna wants you to come to fulfill some specific objective. Of course, the question, how many of you anyway, I asked that question before and no one wants to come back. So, takta deham punarjanma naiti mameti shvarjana. See how easily we can become free from the cycle of birth and death. That's why it is said that devotee is not interested or worried about liberation. Liberation is a side effect of devotional service. It's a side effect. Liberation, you can say, is a waste product of devotional service. Koti janme brahma jnane jai mukti nai, shudumatra namabhashe shai mukti hai. When you chant the holy name in namabhash, not even pure chanting, the shadow chanting, shadow of the chanting holy name, or reflection of the holy name. Nam abhash, it's not the name, holy name. One becomes, at that stage, one becomes liberated. So that is how wonderful this Krishna consciousness is. Now this is an important verse from the 4th chapter. How to receive this knowledge? How can one receive this knowledge? Can this knowledge be acquired through scholarship? By lots of extensive studies of the Vedas? By memorizing the verses? Giving eloquent lectures? Then what is the criteria? The criteria is to receive the mercy of a devotee who has this knowledge. Just consider how we got this knowledge. Prabhupada came, and he made this wonderful arrangement, and as a result of that, we all are here. Had Prabhupada not have come, could we receive this knowledge? No. So that is the important consideration. And that has been mentioned, how to receive this knowledge. Tad viddhi, this is 434. 4th chapter, 34th verse. Tad viddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattadarshina. Tad viddhi, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. the self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Then I go to text 36. It's also a beautiful verse. What an assurance Krishna is giving. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you'll be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. Isn't it wonderful? Who can say that he didn't commit any sin? Only a fool will say that he didn't commit any sin. So we all are, unknowingly or knowingly, we have committed so many sins. But the moment we accept this process, we become free from all our sinful reactions. Krishna is giving that assurance. And this is also, in a way, this is the same thing that Krishna is telling in Sarva Dharman Parityajya. Here he is saying, here he is being even more emphatic actually. Api ched asi papebhya. Api means even if you are. Api chet, even if you are asi, you are. Papebhya, of all the sinners, sarvebhya papakrityama. Sarvebhya papebhya means of all the sinners, even if you are the worst of the sinners, the most sinful than all the sinful personalities, even then you will become free from all those sinful reactions if you just surrender to Krishna. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Okay, so I'll skip the 5th chapter. This you read on your own. Then we go to the 6th chapter. 6th chapter is describing about the transcendental knowledge, or it is leading to yoga. Like uddhared atmanatmanam natmanam avashadayet atmaiva hi atmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmana. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind. With our mind we have to deliver ourselves. With our intelligence we have to deliver ourselves. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. The mind can be our dearest best friend. The mind can also be the worst enemy. He who regulates his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. This yoga is the bhakti yoga, devotional service to the Lord. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. This verse is very important for us to consider, that so often we face the situation that I'm chanting but my mind is wandering. So often devotees ask me that my mind is not steady. I can't, mind wavers, mind wanders while I'm chanting. What to do? So the answer is here. Wherever the mind wanders, what should you do? Should you just go and complain? Maharaj, why my mind is going? And the thing is, then we have to go back to the previous verse that I mentioned. Our mind can be our friend, our mind can be our enemy. So it's with our mind that we have to deliver ourselves. Uddhared atmanatmanam. We have to deliver our mind, we have to deliver ourselves with the help of the mind. So when the mind wanders, what should we do? Bring it back. Bring it back. That will be the honest thing to do. You're complaining, my mind is wandering. Then if you realize, the first question is, do you want the mind to wander? Naturally not. Then when you see that the mind is wandering, then bring it back to wherever it's supposed to be. And where it's supposed to be when you are chanting? It should be in your ears. When you are chanting, you should simply hear the transcendental sound vibration. And a devotee, what's his vision like? A devotee who is situated in proper spiritual understanding, spiritual knowledge. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor he is ever lost to me. So, a pure devotee's perception is that he sees the Lord everywhere and he sees everyone in the Lord. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost to him, nor he is ever lost to me. Now, how do we see that? It's not that we have to see the Lord everywhere, but Prabhupada is pointing out that through everything, through every aspect, we can actually experience Krishna. And Prabhupada gives the example, like Krishna says, Rasoham apsu kaunteya. I am the taste of water. So when you drink water, that so nicely quenches our thirst, then what do we feel? What do we think? Yeah, this taste is Krishna. Prabhashmi sasi surjaya. When you are seeing the rays of the sun and beams of the moon, then we should recognize that they are coming from Krishna. This light is Krishna. So in this way we can see Krishna through everything. We are taking prasad. Oh, how delicious. Oh, Krishna tasted it in this way. And Krishna so mercifully has given this prasad to us. Saprasad, Krishna varadayamai, koribare jiv bhajai, saprasad anna dilo bhai. So mercifully he gave us this prasad. So in this way we can always see Krishna through Shastra Chakshusha. Then towards the end, Krishna is making a very beautiful statement. Tapasibhya adhiko yogi, jnanibhyascha matodhika, karmibhyascha adhiko yogi, tasmat yogi bhavarjuna. Tapasibhya adhiko yogi. Tapasvi means those who perform austerities. Ascetic. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive workers. Therefore, O Arjun, in all circumstances, be a yogi. So even if we take it as Ashtanga Yoga, then also we can consider that Ashtanga Yoga is greater than austerities and penances. Is greater than the Jnana aspect. And it's greater than Karma, Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga. Why? Because through the yoga system, ultimately one sees the Lord in the heart. And when one achieves that, then he becomes a devotee. Because seeing the Lord in the heart automatically induces one to surrender unto Him. And that's what Krishna is mentioning in the next verse. Yoginam opi sarvesham madgatena antaratmanaha Shraddhavan bhajate jo mam same yukta tamo mataha. Yoginam opi sarvesham, of all the yogis. Yoginam opi sarvesham. Madgatena antaratmanaha. One with great faith who always abides in me. One who with great faith abides in Krishna. Thinks of me within himself and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Same yukta tamo mataha. So who is the best of the yogis? One who has become a devotee of Krishna. One who has become most intimately connected to Krishna through devotional service. He is the greatest of all the yogis. So Krishna is pointing out here, a yogi is better than a tapasvi, ascetic. Yogi is better than empiricist or a person who is situated in knowledge. He is greater than the karmi, the fruitive workers. Therefore, Arjuna, you become a yogi. But then he is saying, of all the yogis, my devotee is the best. So this is how Krishna is establishing the supremacy of devotional service. Sometimes people say that, oh, because you are devotees, you are trying to prove or you are trying to claim that your process is the best. But is that really the case? Is this our words or this Krishna's words? Are we saying that we are the best? Or is Krishna who is saying devotional service is the best? So if that is the case, then yes, we are very fortunate that we have accepted devotional service. What happened? It's okay. Okay, since you took the trouble of coming here. So that is how the devotional service is established by Krishna as the best. Now in Bhagavad Gita, first 6 chapters are dealing with Karma Yoga. The last 6 chapters are dealing with Jnana Yoga. And middle 6 chapters are dealing with Bhakti. Now is it like this, that Karma Yoga is the lowest, the next is Bhakti devotional service, and then Jnana Yoga? Are you sure? Huh? Okay, prove it. The general sequence is like that. Karma, Bhakti, Jnana. So it looks like Jnana is the highest. What's your response to that? Our response is, the most valuable thing is kept in the middle. Where do you keep all your money? Right. Locked up in the most safe place. In a locket where the most precious gem is fixed. In the middle. In a ring, where is the most precious gem is fixed? In the middle. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna kept Bhakti in the middle between these 2 sections of Jnana and Karma. Okay, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Does anybody have any question?
Hare Krishna Guru. Maharaj, in today's lecture you told that outside world is very powerful to affect us.
Outside world is?
Very powerful to affect us. Like you were saying that it's difficult for us to chant, and outside world is very...
The influence of the outside world, material world, is very overwhelming. Yeah.
So how can we do it otherwise?
Move into the temple and become a full-time devotee. Ready? See, the choice is yours. You're being bashed up. Anyway, I'm also not serious about that. I will say, work outside for 2 years after you complete your studies. You completed your studies, yeah? Yes. And for how many years you are working now?
3.5 years.
3.5. Oh, okay. Okay, very good. So now you can submit your resignation.
I have blessings this time. I look for initiation.
Oh, no, initiation is not the thing. I am saying moving into the temple. Okay, I don't want to push you too much. As I said, choice is yours. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it okay?
No, if you're not satisfied with the answer?
I was satisfied.
Oh, okay. Very good. So any other question? You can ask the question, Kriti Kumari, if you have. Oh, okay. Yeah. Himesh Indore. Where is Himesh? Okay. How does we, not how does we, how do we? How can we assure ourselves that we will be able to see, remember, recognize and meet our spiritual master even after our death, since we forget everything of previous birth after our death. Well, the spiritual master will come and grab you by your sikha and will try to rescue you. Okay? Yeah. The thing is, you see, like Krishna, when you surrender unto Krishna, then Krishna takes care of you. Like you may forget, but Krishna will not. Right? If you surrender to Krishna, then Krishna will save you. Okay? So that is the biggest assurance. We have surrendered to Krishna, and Krishna said that He will always give protection. So that is our main source of confidence. Haricharan Das. Okay. Please accept my humble obeisances unto your Lord. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Okay. I have a question. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was discussing Sadhya Sadhan Tattva with Ramananda Roy, at some point Ramananda quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita 1866 to establish that Swadharma tag is ultimate. But Mahaprabhu rejected that and told to proceed ahead. But we know that surrendering unto Lord is the highest of doing bhakti. So why Mahaprabhu rejected that, and how we should look into this aspect. Yeah. You see, that Sarva Dharman Parityajya, that instruction is not the ultimate. In a way, it's the beginning. You get the point? Like you surrender, but there are things, aspects beyond that surrender. Surrender is the beginning, and that will take you to higher and higher. Like for example, the last verse of Bhagavad Gita last instruction of Bhagavad Gita is to surrender. But the first instruction or first consideration of Srimad Bhagavatam is surrender. In simple words we can say, Bhagavad Gita is ending with surrender, Srimad Bhagavatam is beginning with surrender. You get the point? Swadharma tag, actually, dharma that has been mentioned here is varnashram dharma. Right? So, surrendering varnashram dharma or rejecting varnashram or transcending varnashram dharma is still a material consideration. Right? Because varnashram is a material consideration. Because this surrender is not taking to the pure devotion. And that is Mahaprabhu's purpose. Right? That's why when Ramananda Roy spoke about Sarvadharman Parityajya, which is Swadharma tag, Mahaprabhu rejected that. Then Ramananda Roy mentioned about Jnana Yoga. Right? And he quoted the verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. Mahaprabhu rejected that. But finally, when Ramananda Roy spoke about pure devotion, which had been, where he quoted the verse, Sthane sthitva shruti gatang tanubang manobhi. When being situated wherever one is, with his body, mind and words, when he serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is pure devotional service. So Mahaprabhu accepted that. So what Mahaprabhu was doing, step by step, he was coming to that platform, rejecting all the other processes. You got it? Kirti Kumari, you have mentioned that Ashtanga Yoga is higher because one actually can perceive the Lord in his heart, and when he sees the Lord, he will feel inclined to surrender unto him. So does he surrender to Krishna or Paramatma aspect of Krishna? And if so, what is then his destination after death? You see, when one surrenders unto Krishna, when a yogi sees as the Paramatma and surrenders unto him, then Paramatma becomes the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You see, when we are unconcerned about him, then he is Super Soul, witness, standing there watching you. But when love is offered, and loving devotional service is offered, then Krishna cannot stay inactive. He reciprocates. So it's through devotion of the devotee, Super Soul becomes Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shankarshan Nitai Das. Okay. What should be the priority order of our spiritual responsibilities? What should be the priority order of our spiritual responsibility? How many responsibilities do you have? Huh? After chanting? Did you include 4 regulative principles? Is already included? The next thing is read Prabhupada's books. Okay? And then service. Read Prabhupada's books and service, both. Right? It's not that because you have service you don't have time to read. No, serve and read as well. Alright? Question? Dekhi? Nisha. Anandamai Das, Hyderabad. Hare Krishna, Anandamai Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. In the foreword of Brahma Samhita English edition, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj writes, quote, one of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's devout followers has rendered his commentary into English for propagatory purpose. The question is, who is that devout follower? Is he Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati himself, or is he one of his learned disciples, such as Professor Sannal? Yeah, I actually asked this question to Sridhar Maharaj. And Sridhar Maharaj told me that actually Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur didn't translate Brahma Samhita. It was Professor Sannal who did that. Thank you, Anandamai Prabhu. Anandamai Prabhu is my godbrother from France, but who lives in Hyderabad, taking care of the BBT there. Dharmendra Krishna, when a person dies and his body is kept for days, then does it affect soul and subtle body to transmigrate in another body? Good question. Most likely, he remains as a ghost. You keep the body, the chances are that he may hover around the body because of his attachment to the body as a ghost. That's why in Europe and America, Europe and other countries in the West, there's so many ghosts. Because they don't burn the bodies, they keep it buried. So, waiting for the judgment day. And hopefully someday it will come. Yes.
So do they get different body after burning them, or do they continue to remain ghosts forever?
Generally generally the material attachment and sinful activities doesn't allow the living entity, the subtle body, to move on to his next destination. It can happen even after burning them. But when you burn the body, then you're actually making that reducing that possibility of becoming a ghost. Because the body is not there, the guy is moving around, leaving the body. I mean, sometimes it happens. Most of the time it happens actually. One remains in the subtle body. And through Shraddha Santi, his soul is relieved from that bondage. And if the body is not there, then the chances of his becoming attached is reduced considerably.
I've also heard that sort of the soul enters into, not soul, but ghosts enter into people's body and they become possessed and all that. Is it true? They actually enter into different bodies?
Yeah. You see, the ghosts have a subtle body. And in the subtle body they have their desires. But they don't have the means to fulfill that desire. Right? Say for example, in the subtle body we may have desire to eat. But if we don't have the gross body, can we eat? In the subtle body we have desire to drink. But if we don't have the gross body, then can we drink? So the ghost situation is like that. They have the desire to eat and drink and do various things, but they don't have the means to do that. So that's why what they try to do sometimes, possess somebody. That's why the word is used, possess, possessed. And through that body, they try to fulfill their desires. So that is the time one gets haunted. And they generally possess the weak bodies, weak individuals. Okay. So, okay, thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.